Hi, my name's Donna, and this is my simple retirement journey. I live on primarily Social Security, and I receive my Social Security check the second Wednesday of every month, and I received mine today. So I thought it'd be a good day to talk about how I live on money. I started collecting Social Security when I was 65 and a half. I fully retired from my accountant job in a not-for-profit company, and that was 4 years ago. And after being retired a few months, I discovered I missed working, so I did a couple temporary jobs for a while, and then I found a part-time 20-hour-a-week job, and I was there about 2 years. And while I worked at the part-time job, I decided to save up for a car. So I saved up a cash flow for a newer used car. I had a 2002 Alero. It was a rust bucket, but she still worked. And I recently purchased a 2019 Corolla. It had 45,000 miles on it, and it gets good gas mileage. It was a one-person owner, and they took very good care of it. So I really like my car. When I started collecting Social Security, I knew I would always be paid the second Wednesday of every month. And looking at my monthly bills, most of my bills were due the beginning of the month. I have my mortgage. I still have a small mortgage. And all my utility bills came due between the 1st and the 8th of the month. So thank goodness I realized I would get paid after all these bills were due. So I began my retirement journey having 1 month of bills in my checking account at all times before I started collecting Social Security. One of my fixed costs was property tax in my county went up 15% last year. So I called the treasurer's office, and I found out that if you're over 65 years old and you earn under a certain amount of money and your home was under a certain assessed value, I felt a sneeze coming on, so I had to stop real quick. So if your assessed value of your home is worth under a certain amount and the lower income, you qualify for a credit. And I don't know what it'll be yet, but I filled out all the paperwork and sent that in, and hopefully my taxes will go down a little bit next year. And one other thing that I've changed recently is my car insurance. I'm with State Farm, and you can get a driver's discount. I think it's called Save and Drive, and I'm not sure if I like it yet or not. I just got it a couple weeks ago. But they give you this little square thing that you put in your car, and it tracks everything that you do. And I'm finding out that I'm not doing well on braking, and I brake well, but I think the problem is I live in a housing addition, and there's cars parked in the streets, and there's people walking in the street instead of walking on the sidewalk. So you're always zigzagging through the streets to get out to the main road. And I think that's affected my braking. So we'll see how that goes. I had to stop again. I think I'm allergic to talking about money. My nose keeps itching. Isn't that crazy? Another thing I kind of track is my gas and electric bills. And I know you can go on a budget, but when I worked in accounting, we would do electric and heating bills on a budget. And it seems like the utility companies messed up our budget, so I don't do that at home. But what I do is, I did this in April. I took both my gas and my electric bill. I found out how much I spent from April 1st last year to March 31st of this year, divided it by 12, and that gave me an average of what my utility bill costs are. So in my budget, I have a little spreadsheet that I use. So in my budget, I have a projected cost and an actual cost. So my projected cost, I think it's like it's not $50. I think it's $110 a month for both of them. So if the actual cost goes down, I have a little savings account at my credit union called utility bills. So I throw the money in there. And I just paid my July electric and gas bills, and I was under $43 from the projected average. I hope this all makes sense. So I threw that in there. And then this winter, when my gas bills are really high, I'll be able to pull that money out, and it won't be so much of a crunch on my budget. I took notes. For me, the hardest part of living on Social Security is being more intentional about spending money. And I find it easier to track the fixed expenses, like your utility bills and insurances, that type of thing. But it's the other things that I used to spend without thinking because I had the money, and I don't have that so much anymore. So one thing I've done more recently is I enjoy reading, and I would go out and buy a book and didn't think anything of it. It's $20, $25 for a book. Well, now I take advantage of the library, and I either listen to audiobooks or I like to read ebooks. Sometimes I go to the physical library, but I like the ebooks because you download them from the library, and after 21 days, they just disappear. There's never a late fee. There are some books I still buy now. If they're a more of a resource book, I will use them. I enjoy studying the Bible, so I will get either a different version of the Bible or some kind of resource. And what I usually do is there's always a sale, either Amazon or I usually buy from Christian Books, I think. And so I just wait for sales and buy them there. And some other books I do buy is I listen to several YouTubers, and when they write a book, I usually buy it. I know them well, and I just want to help out the little guy. And I have not been disappointed from any books that I have bought. My other big hobby, besides reading books, is I love to knit, and I've shown you a couple things I've done. And wool yarn can be expensive, and I have a lot. I have a knitting addiction, or maybe it's a yarn buying addiction. So in the past, when I was working full time, I said, "Oh, that's a pretty color. I'll buy it now and use it later." Well, now I've got quite a bit of yarn, so I don't do that anymore. I look, and unless I have a specific project to knit, I don't just casually buy yarn anymore. And my friends think I have a yarn problem, but I don't think I do. And one last thing about learning to live on less money is being content with what we have. And this is a mindset, and we all have our personal needs and wants. And I got to thinking about when I was young. When you're young, you want that nice house and the new car, and I was more fashion conscious back in the day, and I used to color my hair, all that good stuff. Well, as we get older, we realize that some of these things we just have to have. You discover that, after, depending what it is, after a week or a month or a year, they're just another item. They're not important anymore. So I've learned that being content, I don't need as much to keep me happy. And these days, I have a bird feeder in my backyard, and I always keep bird feed in there. And I love sitting at my kitchen table in the morning and watching the birds eat at my bird feeder. That's just, to me, it's priceless. It's simple, and I enjoy hearing the bird songs and seeing who's eating at my bird feeder. Today I've given you a basic overview of how I budget my money. I haven't gotten into great detail, but just wanted to give you an overview of what I do. And there's a lot of channels out there that are really good at talking about money. And I don't know how deep to go into this since I'm a newbie in the YouTube world. But if any of you would like to know some general information about budgeting money, I would be glad to share. I am a retired accountant. I'm not a financial planner or anything like that. I'm just an ordinary person that enjoys messing with the numbers when it comes to personal budgeting. So if you would like me to expand on some of this, please let me know. And I thank you for watching today. If you liked what you saw, please like. And I'd love to hear comments from you. And please subscribe. So hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye. Since I only get paid once a month, the second Wednesday of every month, I've totally lost it. How do I want to say